First big winter storm into the northern plains brought some pretty cold weather, and that cold weather lingers. And the start of this 2-week forecast will be a continuation of that very cold weather this first weekend. However, it doesn't look like it's going to stay very cold very long. Generally speaking, a little bit milder weather into the central part of the continent will take over for the middle part of this forecast period, which will likely bring some milder weather for about the Thanksgiving time of the forecast. At the end of things, we're not really seeing any general trends either way. But we are going back to mostly dry weather. Now, let me explain that in just a minute. We had the one kind of big storm that was preceded by some littler storms. And then we've had a lot of little nuisance snows around the northern plains the last few weeks. There are some signs that we're going back to a drier pattern. Here's what we're looking at with the cold weather around this weekend. A little bit of ridging taking place along the west coast, which as we go through the week will be replaced by troughing. And as this low pressure area digs through, we're going to see some transitional weather, and we'll actually get some milder weather into the northern plains. Doesn't look screaming warm, but there will be quite a few days that go to near or above freezing from parts of Saskatchewan down through the western Dakotas and through the central part of the Midwest. Things will moderate a bit. Frigid weather, as in near zero, sub-zero weather, continues to lurk up in this north central part of Canada, and the warm weather is beginning to look a little more wintry, kind of hugging the coastal areas down south. Spine of the Rockies this week will remain cold, but in general, the cold weather pattern will relax a little bit across the central part of the country. Now, going into the second week, still relatively cold, but we're seeing, again, this little bit of ridging taking shape. Now, I know you're looking at this jet stream so far down south. It's actually kind of a broad, diffuse jet stream pattern, so it's not a really concentrated jet, so it's not at the moment really pulling down any of that really cold air. And as we get toward the end of the second week, it's still mostly below freezing in the northern plains, northern Great Lakes, and kind of cool, as in some 40s and maybe some 50s a little bit south of there. But we're not seeing any really dramatic temperature patterns. As far as precipitation goes, I do see one more round of a significant storm sometime near the Thanksgiving holiday over the eastern part of the country. And depending on this rain-snow line, if it affects O'Hare, it's going to interfere with holiday travel. Rain to the south, substantial, but very little of that is expected out into the northern plains. And in the west, there will be some northern California rain and some mountain snows. The second week, though, which gets us into the start of December, is really looking fairly dry across a large part of the whole middle of the United States.